Hey guys, I'm Jen George. Today I'm live in the weird bunker that we're in at Fishburners. I'm here with Reza from WipeHero. Reza, who the hell are you?
Hey, my name is Reza. I'm one of the co-founders of WipeHero. WipeHero is, we've basically created technology which allows us to wash any vehicle at any time without a single drop of water. So instead of you wasting your time and our precious water resources going to a car wash, you can sit at your home office, wherever you are, and we'll come to you and wash your car on the spot. And it's actually better for your car.
It's awesome. And how did you get into this startup?
Through the start. So I actually came to Australia to do my master's initially.
Oh, wow.
Then I moved to the US to sort of do a PhD and then fellowship. Started my first startup in the US and came back to Australia having no idea what I want to do. So I started, I was like, okay, and then the previous startup didn't go as well. Like it was going well, but
What did you do before this?
So it was a biotech startup.
Nice.
So we had some investment that we had raised, and I guess things were going okay for the company, but we weren't, in terms of the, basically me and the other founder weren't getting along very well.
Yeah.
So basically decided to move out of that company soon enough, and came back to Australia, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I started applying for jobs, and I was like, oh, I want to do startups, but then like maybe I need some money now. So I started applying for jobs, and basically I couldn't get a job.
Yep.
And that's when like WipeHero was like and then sorts of the ideas of WipeHero and it was there, and then started chatting with my co-founder Fred, and basically that's
how it evolved.
Yeah.
So from your experience with your first co-founder, by the sounds of it, who shall not be named, what did you learn on how to approach with your new co-founder?
I think communication is very key.
Yeah.
So if you like, I see my co-founder more than I see my partner. Basically, you're seeing them every day, and there's tension, there's money involved, there's
frustration.
There's frustration, and and all of that involved. Most people are not as rational as we want to think we are. We're not as rational, as logical and rational as we should be. So basically keeping the communication up, making it very clear on what I stand for, what I think is right, and then getting it out of the way before it becomes into this big thing in your head.
Yeah. Rip the band-aid off early.
Exactly, and then not only that, but also having a very clear understanding of how you're contributing and how I'm contributing, and making sure that both contributions are very much value. Whereas I think the biggest issue that me and my other founder had in my previous startup was both very similar people.
Yes.
We were adding the same sort of values, and then we were clashing because we were basically doing the same thing. So
yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so if you were going to find a co-founder again, how would you approach it from day one? Is it jump on Tinder?
maybe actually do my work. I don't know. Look, I don't think it's not something that I've nailed down the procedure for it. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go look for a co-founder and I know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
But it's just that, putting yourself out there, having that exposure, talking to a lot of people, and then having a couple of these rough experiences or learning from a couple of these rough experiences and knowing the right decision to make from there on. But, if I were to be like, oh, I'm going to go find a co-founder tomorrow, I would probably just put myself out there, talk to people and learn from my previous, try to implement the things that I've learned before.
Yeah, definitely. Do you take any of these learnings into when you're recruiting?
100%.
Yeah.
Our interviews,
who are you?
they take a long time. Some of our interviews take up to 5-6 hours sometimes.
Are there drinks involved, or is it?
There's a cup of water. But that's startup life. But we just obviously take breaks. It's not like interrogation, but it is pretty intense, and I think it's the way I try to do it is I try to hit them with the same questions from it's basically the same question worded differently. Yep. And once you do that enough times, you end up getting that person even realizing what they're actually saying. Yep. And the truth starts coming up rather than the stuff that you should say coming up. So,
definitely. And so what size is your team now with WipeHero?
So we're 12 people in the office.
Yep. What's the breakdown of that? Is it ops, engineers?
Mixture of, we've got 5 engineers, 2 people involved with ops, and the rest of marketing and basically dealing with growth.
Great.
And we have over 30 people who are heroes, who are the actual people that do the jobs.
Make magic happen.
Exactly, who are out on the road in Sydney, Melbourne, and they're clean cars. So
great.
Yeah, doing an amazing job. So.
Awesome. And so when did you make that decision to hire the first person outside of you and your co-founder?
When we basically couldn't, deal with like the sort of stuff that was coming in, and even to this day, there's still, I think, in a startup. I'm not too sure. I'm supposed to look at the camera. Look at you.
Oh, you can look wherever you want. It's all about you, so we just need to make sure.
But yeah, so the way we do it is that you're always under resourced. At the moment, we're severely under resourced, but it's just that it hits a point where you're like, okay, I'm sacrificing too much for something that could be outsourced to someone else, and then
or could be done better.
It could be done better because I feel like I'm the king of the world, but I'm actually there's so much stuff going on that I'm doing a good job. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, when you were do you have a technical background?
So I've got an engineering background, so I've learned how to code a little bit, but I can't by any means code at all. So, so I know the basics of coding, but
So when it came to hiring people, those skill sets, how did you find them? How did you know that they were legit?
Yeah.
How did you go about that process?
I don't even know if I still know.
Your guys are sitting there going,
no. See, they're not gonna go back to work. Not doing a good job. No, I think it's so. There's three things that are really important for hiring, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's knowledge, skill, and just that person and the mentality of that person, how much they want to grow. And sometimes you've got knowledge, but you don't have enough skill. Sometimes you've got a lot of skill, but you don't have knowledge and you don't have the passion to move forward. I think if you tick two of those boxes, then that's fine with me. You can apply the skills. If you tick two of those other boxes, actually the passion has to be one of them. So you have to have the passion, and one of the skill or knowledge ones. As long as you tick one of those boxes, then you can work out. You can either acquire the knowledge or you can acquire the skill that you've never had.
Yeah.
But and from that, I think it's easier to hire people. Rather than saying, hey, you need to have this skill set, you need to be like this, you need to be like that.
Yeah.
No, because I come from a completely different background, and I'm doing car washing, which is completely different anyway. So if I've managed to acquire those skills, then I'm pretty sure anyone on the team can do it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And so, as a second-time founder, how have you learned to manage your time better and your mental health? And there's a lot of stress when you're running a startup. A lot of people relying on you as a team. How do you juggle that?
Look, again, it's not something that I've nailed down perfectly, and you're always learning.
Yeah.
But I think. What I try to do is there's no water here. You were talking about having no water in your interviews. There's no water here.
It's bad service.
But what we do, what I try to do is have set locations where I do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So previously I would just juggle work and everything else at the same time. But even at work, I've got certain places, certain rooms that I go to do certain things, and then I do certain other things that I do. And so at night you have to still work. I know I would like to not work, but most of the times I do end up working. But there's certain things that I just decide at night is for responding to emails.
Yep.
A little bit more chilled, more there's not a lot of stress on thinking about something, and I can basically close off emails and I can shut down for the day.
Yep.
So that helps me, and basically taking breaks every now and then before going insane is quite important as well.
Yeah. And do you do any specific sports or read books, or is there things that aren't necessarily work related?
Look, I love to say I do, but no, I don't.
I used to yogi or something.
No, I used to spearfish. I used to go swimming every day, but I think I have been pretty occupied with the startup, so I try to hit the gym every now and then, which swimming and gymming every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's not on a frequent basis.
So your average at the moment is once per 12 months.
Not that bad, but no, I think probably once every week or once every 2 weeks.
Good. Okay, cool. Yeah,
I try to.
It's funny, everyone's got such different approaches to it. They will literally block out every Thursday at 2 o'clock they're doing a dance lesson or something, just something to get them out of their work environment. Whereas others are just when it fits in, it fits in. We've got to go.
And I think maybe in the future, we'll have to fit it in.
Yeah.
But at this stage, I think it's really hard to fit it in.
Of course.
I did it for a while where I was like, okay, I'm gonna, I'm usually an early morning person, so I get up in the morning, do a couple hours of work, and then right before, come to the office. I would go to gym and then come to the office.
Yep.
But then like, you know, it didn't work out. So
fair enough. But that'll keep changing. And I mean, but how do you instill that sort of culture in your team? You know, what is your team culture? Probably a better question.
Look, we get asked this question all the time in interviews, and like I say these amazing things about the WipeHero culture. We don't have a culture. If you join WipeHero, you're there to build a culture, right?
Yep.
We have set values, and we know these things are important. But it's not like these are the things that we stand for. No, there's certain things that we don't stand for. We don't want to be associated with them. But the rest, we are at that stage where we're still developing it.
Yeah.
And we want all our team members to be involved in that as well. But, you know, basically, the most important thing is as long as you keep the communication up, you know, then the rest of the culture things, you know, if you're feeling like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. This is important for the company culture. You know, that all comes along, and, you know, you keep building it along the way.
That's great. And is there any sort of startups or founders or corporates that you kind of look to for advice or guidance or leadership, I guess?
Most of the advice that I get is from the US because of, you know, I spent a few years in the US initially studying and then having my other startup, which I'm finding that, you know, is not as relevant for the culture in Australia. Because, you know, a lot of stuff that you say over there, you know, might be working with that mentality in San Francisco or, like, you know, in Boston. But, you know, when you apply to here, people here, you know, obviously the startups here are different, the cultures, every single culture is different, and it's not working as well. So, you know, I am starting to get that exposure in the startup community, talk to more people and get to understand, you know,
make new friends.
Yeah, but, you know, we've got amazing, like, investors that, you know, I look up to. So
that's great. How did you go about finding them, or they find you? Tinder.
Exactly, Tinder. No, I think it's just basically networking. You know, like it wasn't like we never had like, oh, I'm going to go like talk to 20 investors to be able to
find one.
No, like, you know, like basically knew them from before, had a chat, they knew us.
Yeah.
And, you know, they knew we were going to raise and they wanted to be part of it. So
that's great. And so with your business then, how have you gone about from day one trying to hack it together to scale it to then, you know, where you are today, controlling that supply and demand?
Yeah, so supply and demand, we
it's one of the biggest challenges for
marketplaces. Yeah. So we don't have an open marketplace.
Yep.
It's still very much controlled. And, you know, because the difficulty in business that we have, or I guess the unique thing that makes WipeHero incredibly unique, and we've managed to crack that, is because we're not just a marketplace where you take something to one and to the other, delivered, or, you know, and that's done.
Yep.
That's the first part, and then the rest is actually delivering a service.
Yes. Which
comes with quality control, making sure they're on time, which is there for the marketplace as well. But, you know, there's a whole lot that, you know, comes after they actually get to the address as well.
Yep.
So we actually do control the marketplace, and we limit our demand based on our supply side.
Yep.
At the moment. We have let it open every now and then.
Yep.
But, you know, we're still experimenting on that.
Yeah, definitely. And what are the sort of things have you tested out, you know, when you think back to day one versus what you're testing out now? You know, rookie areas from our side is, you know, we'll just put up ads across the whole of New South Wales, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
And go, why is no one signing up in Surrey Hills when we need them? You know, what sort of things were you doing day one versus what you're doing now?
Well, so like day one, it was actually a lot of offline.
Yep.
So all of our initial customers basically came from me or my co-founder. We were going out to car parks and basically saying, hey, we want your car washed. Can we get your car washed? Like, you know, basically begging people to get the service. And then it went to us putting us in, like, you know, I went out and basically put on an accent for a few of these washes just to get, you know, get an understanding of what's going on. Most of our washes do come from non-English backgrounds. And most of them have been in Australia for a year or so, and so they, you know, the way they interact with people was different. So when we started, we basically got into that phase of, hey, let's be washers, trying to figure out what's happening. Did that for a little while, and then, so we got the initial traction up, but what we did was that we found that it was basically impossible for us to be able to keep the density up enough where we could actually make it into a true marketplace. So that's why we went after businesses. And so we acquired a lot of B2B clients, and that helped us bring up the density. It gave us a very unique value proposition in terms of the marketplace that we had, because we had density.
You control your economics a bit more.
Exactly, and then you can control that. Plus, you know, it was a lot easier for us to allocate an extra B2C customer in the meantime. So that helped us significantly, and then from there we just making everything very targeted. Like, not just going all over Sydney. Making very targeted to specific areas. And not just making it targeted to areas, targeting to exactly, one day you target BMW owners in Surrey Hills, the next day you target, Mercedes owners in Surrey Hills. Making it very targeted, and then, again, going back to those guys, studying them exactly, looking at how they came on board, why they came on board, why are they happy, why are they unhappy, and then, basically moving on from that.
That's great. What sort of tools do you use, or, obviously Google Analytics and things like that?
Excel.
Besides Excel, what are you using?
No, we've
sure.
Look. In all honesty, you can do anything with Excel. Like, if you're starting, and then a lot of people are like, "What do you do for this one?" I'm like, just
start manually.
I always swore because I'm so strongly against it. I swear, go fucking back to Excel and get it done in Excel, because people I need a dashboard to make this and make that. I'm like, you don't need that. You need an Excel file
first.
Yeah, and then you can Google, and they're like, how do I share that? I'm like, Google Drive. You can share that with multiple people.
Yeah,
that's how we start. At the moment, we've got a dashboard where it tracks where these guys are coming from, how much are they paying, where they're coming, what's the experience been like.
Yep.
And even though we have a dashboard, we still make a lot of mistakes. So we still, the dashboards are obviously improving.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's most of the stuff that we have, because we've got an amazing tech team, we either use tools that are out there and you basically implement them with APIs, or we develop.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. And so, what's next for you guys? I mean, obviously, you're going to come for a lot more places.
We're going to wash your car. That's do you have a car?
I do. You can wash it.
Okay. I can book that. Actually, I'm going to walk out until you wash your car.
Well, we'll do the next Facebook Live, getting my car washed.
Yeah, sure.
And then I guess you guys planning on going international?
Yeah, 100%. So we're in Sydney, Melbourne at the moment.
Yeah.
We've started experimenting with the US market.
Yep.
And where we want to be is, in a few years' time, we want to be basically the biggest car wash. Not only car wash, we want to be a concierge for all cars. Yep. It's not just car washing. If you think about it, from the day you get a car to the day you need to do servicing, there's all these complicated things that goes on with your car.
Yeah.
And I don't see why you need to go sit at a service center for 4 hours until, hey, have you changed your oil?
With really bad coffee.
Exactly, really shit coffee. And there's no reason to do that. I think all of that can be done at the push of a button. So the vision is get everything that needs to be done with your car at the push of a button. First of all, be the biggest player in Australia, and be very competitive overseas as well.
That's great. And would you plan on rolling out to more cities in Australia first, or do you think that it's better to find the most bigger cities or similar cities, Sydney and Melbourne, outside of Australia first, rather than going across Australia?
I think we have two sides of our business.
Yep.
There's B2B side and the B2C side.
Yep.
The B2B side, we know exactly how it works, and we can expand that to basically most cities in Australia. So that will happen. But the consumer side, we'll stick to Sydney and Melbourne for now.
Yeah.
We're actually in Sydney at the moment.
Yeah.
But for I think in the next year or so, we'll basically stick to Sydney and Melbourne.
Yep.
And then look into doing it overseas as well.
That's great. And is there startups that you look to for inspiration on what they're doing, or that you look, even if they're in different industries, they're ones that you're looking at going, wow, they're doing incredible things?
I think there's no. There's not
WipeHero.
there's not one that comes in mind, and the difference is that the reason why I don't like that is because there's I look at growth rates and I look at companies that have made it, and I'm like, okay, I want to be that, but because each scenario is different, each business is different, each customer is different. Yeah. I can't really benchmark myself against and there's nothing that WipeHero out there in the market yet. There's other people that have tried it and they failed it. I just don't want to be those guys.
Fair enough. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
And then Sydney startup community. What do you see that's working? What's not working? What do you think that can be done better?
I think people are very nice, and people don't realize how nice people are here. you know, very supportive community. Even though I keep telling people, like in the Sydney Startups Facebook group, it took me 6 months before they accepted me getting in. I got rejected like 5 times.
I can't imagine why they wouldn't trust you.
No, it's probably the beer. But no, like it took a while for me to like get into that. But you know, other than that, like actually the Sydney startup community, the people there, people don't realize that they're super nice, super supportive, and sometimes I think too nice.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that would probably help a lot of startups is if people were a little bit more real, a little bit more realistic. If you think something's shit, just
call it as it is.
Call it as it is, right? Yeah. And then people are like, oh no, good on you. And I think it's, you know, whereas I think yeah, no, like I think you might do well if you like. I think you might do well, but you know, these are the risks. But you know, just be aware of the risks that you're taking.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah. But I don't think that that transparency is there yet. Everyone's like, too nice, be supportive, be supportive, be supportive.
Excuse me. Do you think that's the biggest difference between San Fran and here?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, people are a lot more real, like, you know, and you know, a lot of time they're wrong. It's not like that culture, you know, is right. But it's I think the right balance is also like, you know, key.
Yeah.
Keep pushing it to like you know, far right or too left is always like problematic.
Definitely. And from a talent point of view, how do you think that is at the moment, or have you found it personally?
Look, I haven't had to do a lot of hiring in San Francisco. Just
sorry, for here in Australia, do you think we've got access to great talent? Do you think it's difficult, competitive?
I think it's very difficult for certain areas.
Yeah.
Generally, people, I think, you know, sometimes it's grown a lot. So right, I went to the US in 2013, I think. Yeah, 2013. And when I went there, there was like, you know, going from spent 2 years, like a year and a half ish at UNSW, and then when I went before that, like at universities or like, I don't think there was a startup thing at all, right? And people, like, if you were mentioning people, like, I'm gonna go for my own startup in San Francisco, they're like, oh, and even though we had investors, they're like, oh, probably jobless, like, you know, he's just there.
Yeah.
But I think people have understood that a little bit more. They've seen a couple of successes, and it's getting better. People do want to work at startups, but I think it's still quite difficult to take these people on board, which are on like, you know, 150, 160, 200K salaries.
Says well done. Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was a question.
I love how you just like it right away.
Probably should have shut things as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Sorry. Please continue.
Yeah. So yeah, we're talking about talent, are we?
Yeah. So it's
really hard sometimes to like, you know, bring people in who are like on these incredibly high salaries and say, hey, look, I'm going to pay you less. I'm going to
take a risk. Yeah.
More equity, and you know, we've managed to do that. Yep. That's why we've got amazing people on board. But it hasn't been easy.
Yeah. And do you think that there's things that people can be doing to assist with trying to bring more people in? Like, do you think startups should be creating more visibility around, you know, what they can and can't do, or you know, the opportunity for people?
100%. I think, you know, Shark Tank is not supposed to be aired at, like, is it Sunday? I actually don't know. Is it like, you know, like it should be aired at a time, you know, like if Big Brother gets aired at, like, you know, in during the week, you know, when people actually watch it, those sort of things, if it gets shifted towards
mainstream.
Exactly. Yeah. And people get, okay, shoot, this is actually cool. I want to do this now.
Yeah.
And you know, getting that exposure out, you know, would help a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess then, are there certain podcasts and things that you listen to regularly, or books that you've read that you think people should be reading?
I think 0 to 1 is like 100% the best book in the world. But you know, like after that, I'm very much an article reader rather than like, you know, you know, like 0 to 1 is an amazing book, but
what about sources? So TechCrunch, things like that. Or,
exactly. But you know, any article that comes my, our investors send us a whole lot of articles to read every time they see something. Read this. I'm like, okay, cool. But you know, very much in a startup, you know, and I get asked this question a lot. They're like, I want to start this. What do I read? I'm like, okay, read 0 to 1. Yeah. But beyond that, it's not something where you're like, I want to read 20 books and like, you know, go start something. I think the way I do it is that, you know, I keep moving forward and I'm shit. I'm like, I actually know nothing about this. And then I need to read, like, you know, I'm going to read a chapter in a book, like, you know, about human psychology, how to, you know, what do you do when employees are pissed, right? You know, like, stuff like that, you know, read a chapter on that and then read an article on that, you know, and then move forward. It's not like, you know,
have
like,
to study, you know.
You have to study, you have to get, you know, a bachelor's degree to be able to do this.
Yeah.
startup.
No, it makes perfect sense. And if you, I ask everyone this, so probably to the randomness, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh shit! A genie.
And you've got like a superhero on the front of your logo. Yeah.
If I had a superpower, I think I would probably bring a lot more equality to the world.
Yep. And what's your experience been with that in the Sydney startup community?
I think Australia's fine in terms of equality. Trust me. There's work that can be done, but I think by equality, I mean giving everyone. You know, a lot of times we think we're really talented, we're amazing, like I'm really smart, and this is the phase that I was really stuck in. But you know, at the end of the day, I am really lucky to be where I am. Like, you know, I was born in Iran, and like I spent pretty much all my childhood and teenage years in Iran. I was lucky that, you know, I wasn't like one of the bad ones in Iran, like, or not bad ones, but, you know, one of the underprivileged ones in Iran. And I was like, you know, even though we were quite average, but, you know, being average is still like, you know, but I don't think if I would be here today if I was like, let's say, from an underprivileged family in Iran or from an underprivileged country, family anywhere in the world. And I think having that initial privilege is important to recognize and acknowledge. And then from there on, you know, you build whatever you have. And yes, other people have had better opportunities that you and they've missed out. But I think giving more people in the world that opportunity is I think that's something that I'm just passionate about. Yeah,
that's awesome. And do you involved in any sort of community groups or things that actually actively work towards those sorts of things? Or
yeah, having said that, no. No, I like jokes aside, I don't think I do enough. But you know, there's, you know, obviously little communities, you know, like especially like a lot of Persians or Iranians when they come here, they're like very scared. You know, I try to get involved and help them out. And you're like, oh, it's not as scary as you think it is. Like, you know, just do this, do that. But you know, and you know, basically, you know, a lot of actually immigrants message me a lot because they're like, okay, you just came here a few years ago. How did you do this? And you know, and I keep telling them, like, I had a very unique situation. I was like a little bit more privileged, but you know, this is, I think, what you can do to be able to get to that stage.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you want people to know about WipeHero before we finish up?
Yeah, WipeHero is going to take over the world. So be those first few people, and so then in a few years' time, you can say, "Look, I was the, you know, first
initial adopter."
Yeah, exactly, initial adopter. Yeah. So get on it.
So where can they go to check it out?
WipeHero.com.au.
And if anyone has questions about things, what can you help people with? What can they hit you up about?
I think Facebook or LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit slow in responding, but I'll, you know, make sure I respond.
Get there eventually.
Yeah, I'll get say like, you know, like maybe 3, 4, 5 days a week, but you know, I'll eventually respond to people. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's good.
Anyway, guys, see you next time. I can't even remember who's next, but someone will be next. So have a good week. Bye.